Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is the difference between repair and resolution after a conflict.
Yes, it might seem like those are the same terms. Doesn't repair and resolution, aren't those the same things? But we're going to actually distinguish it for you, and it's going to make a lot of sense because it actually came up in a session with a couple where they were actually really trying to discover the difference. And I don't want to spoil it, but really quick before we jump in, just have to give you a last call. It's your only opportunity to join the July Couples Challenge, the 30-day Couples Challenge that's all about prioritizing us. And the way I like to define it is that it really is about simplifying, making positive changes in your relationship. And this came from a lot of couples going, oh my gosh, I see so many pieces of content and I see all these courses, but then what do we do on a day-to-day basis? Or we go to a therapy session every other week, and the Couples Challenge gives you daily prompts that either falls into the category of being a love deposit, a conversation starter, or a communication tip. And we get every day messages from people who've done a previous one, because we had one in June, like, this is helping us so much. We look forward to the message every day. It's exactly what we needed. So it's very realistic, no matter how busy you are. We wanted it to be possible, whether you have a newborn baby and you're exhausted, or you work a job traveling, like whatever it is, or you're traveling for July 4th, that it is possible for you. So sign up. It starts July 1st. Go to mycoupleschallenge.com. You're going to love it.
Let's get into this about repair, about conflicts, about resolution. So another conflict topic for you all. And why do we talk about this so much? Well, as you've been starting to hear from us, we're not starting, probably many times now, it is so critical that repairing from conflicts happens for a strong, healthy relationship. It's actually a key metric to say whether your relationship is strong and healthy for, again, the long term. Not necessarily reducing the amount of conflicts.
That's a second goal, right?
Well, and the way that I just personally say it, as a byproduct of fully repairing conflicts, then you are going to reduce the number that you have. Again, that's going to be a byproduct. Why? Because you're not storing up things to become triggers and unresolved frustrations out in the future. So you're not storing up all these things that are just going to potentially turn into conflicts later. That's why your conflicts will feel like they reduce. Now, in the sessions that we do with couples, it might seem like we're making such a small
like
little
we're splitting
tweak,
hairs almost.
splitting hairs, or just that you could use repair and resolution interchangeably or almost like synonyms. However, there's a big difference.
Yep.
You know, we'll talk with couples and say something like, so did you resolve the conflict from last week? And then we get some version of them looking at each other and saying, yeah, we got past it, and then took blank action. So it's like very focused on what action did we need to take to move past this. Now, as you've been hearing from us, that is not necessarily repair. That is finding a solution. So let me introduce three terms to you
Aaron
today.
loves this. He loves this breakdown.
That are going to be into an equation that I came up with.
Because he loves creating formulas.
I feel like I need structure and formulas for the emotional side of relationships and the emotional side of life. Like operating like a river. A river flows and is free-flowing within the boundaries of the bank. If you didn't have banks, there would be no river.
So you need structure.
So you need some structure so that anything can move forward and flow.
That's true.
Anyway,
let's hear the formula.
Digress. So the three terms are repair, solution, and resolution. So here comes the formula. It's repair plus a solution equals resolution.
Okay, I'm excited about this and to break it down more specifically. And I want to just paint the picture first of how it can go if you don't have all three of these. So you mentioned like one scenario, but I think it's worth mentioning that you may follow our making up and moving forward guide. So for example, for those of you who have that, you're like, okay, we sat down, we did the repair guide, we did your steps, and yeah, we feel repaired. And we still are trying to figure out what decision to make, because maybe the argument happened over a big decision. Do we spend the money on the pool? Do we sell our house? Do we have another child? And so maybe there was a big decision that was part of the conflict. So you repaired, but maybe didn't come to the solution.
So let's dive a little bit further in, because when you say repair, what we're talking about is the emotional side. We're talking about that a conflict arose because there was a difference in opinion.
Triggers.
Didn't necessarily agree. Certainly could be a trigger, something slightly bigger like a broken promise, but it could just literally be that you have different perception about something, right? That's from our book. A conflict is just two opposing ideas or views. It's really the part about the escalation and the emotion and you doing more damage is the main problem to quote unquote conflict.
Right.
So whenever you have something like that come up, it's when the emotion starts to get involved. And then so there is a need to repair the emotion. That means to take responsibility that your action had an emotional impact on your partner.
Yep.
And when you do that through various steps, which we've covered in podcasts, is also in the guide, so we won't cover that here, you bring a repair to the emotional impact or damage that your action had on your partner.
Yep.
That's probably the best way I could say it.
Yeah, I think that feeling sufficiently as though we have mended the wounds with each other, whether we said hurtful things, we brought up the past, we threatened, ending, because sometimes people go pretty far with it in a conflict that maybe started about the dishes, right? Or something small. And there's obviously reasons for why it got so escalated. But if we wounded each other, we need to mend the wounds. And it's not time. It's not just letting some time pass that, my partner's going to suddenly feel better, even though I use their biggest insecurity against them. That, for example.
Well, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I do want to make it even more practical, because what we're saying is it doesn't have to be huge. It could really be small.
That's true. Yeah, I'm using big arguments, right? Yeah, big or small.
The biggest insecurity of all time you used against them.
But no, you're right. The repair, and then we're going to define the others, is that you have truly brought some healing to the emotional side. That there's not still kind of this residue of distance, of, kind of staying apart from each other. Because a big sign that you didn't repair is that it gets brought up in the next argument.
Yes, agree. And I'm seeing a lot of other things too. It's also just that there's a slight hangover, or you could say a wedge of disconnection. That's how you know that there was not sufficient repair.
Yes.
It likely will come up in the future. Maybe it will, maybe it not. However, minimum, there will be an emotional distance between the two of you.
Yes.
So that's really a critical part that we feel gets missed by most people because of this second part.
Right. Now define it for us.
Solution.
And
when you're listening to this, you might not be seeing it visually, so I have to say it. If you think of the word resolution, R-E solution, then you have repair, R-E, plus solution, you get the resolution.
He loves this. Look, you guys, he's very excited.
That's so perfect. So the solution side is the logical action to solve the problem. And this is where most couples, I would say, fail to actually resolve something because you step over the repair. Not as difficult to say, hey, here's the action that we can agree to go forward. So that's the solution. But you probably have more nuance about the solution side even.
Yeah, well, again, because certain arguments might have occurred around a topic where there needs to be a decision made, right? So it wasn't just something that tends to be a nagging, recurring frustration in your relationship. It's maybe about, hey, what do we do about this medical decision for our child? Or, hey, do we buy a home? Or, hey, how much are we spending on money on X, Y, and Z? So there's some decision that needed to be made or something you need to agree on. Like I can even think of a client recently that's like, okay, but what do we do if we just keep seeing it differently? And so in those situations where there does need to be some kind of a next action taken, right? So hopefully you've gone through the repair steps from our making up and moving forward guide, as we talked about. So the emotional residue has been resolved, the impact of how you acted during the argument. Then usually not in the same conversation. Sometimes it's possible, but a lot of times that first one needs to be truly about the emotional repair, to let that settle, and then be able to circle back soon, not let it be weeks and now you're frustrated again because you never came to the solution. So it's you want it to be somewhat soonish, maybe a day later, a couple days later, when you're a little more clear-minded, you've mended the wounds. And now you can come back to, okay, what is the appropriate or agreed upon or win-win solution to this? And one thing we're big on when it comes to creating decisions and solutions as a couple is, number one, revisiting what your top priorities are, and that could even be reevaluating what you value as a couple. And then brainstorming multiple solutions. We find that couples a lot of times are just arguing for one or the other. Like, here's my one idea and here's your one idea, and let's battle it out for whose takes over. But what if there's actually a lot of other great ideas and you just haven't taken the time? So for us, we personally like to either write out a bunch of different solutions or just verbally say them out loud. And then we usually find that by number 5 or 6, we're like, actually, that's a way better solution than the first couple we were arguing about. Yeah. So what else would you add about the solution?
The last thing is time horizon. You won't always be able to see a final solution to something like, should we have a kid? Should we move? Should I find a different career path? So those might be longer lead time horizons. So we're not like the goal setting, solution finding experts, I would say, but you just break your solution, if you will, down to the smallest next step you can take. So for the bigger ones. Yeah. So, okay, we're not in a place where we can just decide that we're both ready to have a kid, for example, which is a place that we found ourselves over a course of a few years. Yeah. Right? But we were always repaired. And then though we didn't say, yes, we're all in to have Sky, which we obviously have now, it was, hey, let's check in a month. Let's have this conversation. Let's put it in sort of this mindset, like ask each other the question, well, what if this? Or what if that? Well, what do we do if we did have one? Yes. What we want our lifestyle to look like. So your solution might just be breaking it down to the next logical next step.
I think that's a great point that you make about the solution. So I'll give one more example of that, because you gave the child thing, is that another couple we've been working with lately, a topic for them has been around like professional moves that aligns with their family lifestyle. And so they're breaking down the solution to this kind of bigger thing they're trying to work out to mini steps. Okay, within a month, you research these kind of business opportunities locally. And then, okay, we'll reevaluate and discuss. So you're right. Like, it's not always in one conversation that you get to the solution. Now, some are more time pressing. If there's a medical decision you have to make, so we aren't saying that you always have a long lead time. And that's where you have to evaluate, okay, how many little mini conversations do we need to have leading up to the urgency for the decision? So but
in either case, you can feel a level of completeness as you move through both of these steps. And these steps being, you have the repair, you have the solution, which is going to be whatever your next logical step is on the path, if it's a longer lead item. So the resolution, if you put those together, is the combination of both repairing the emotional impact and agreeing upon a collaborative next action to take as a couple It gets you on the path to solving the initial problem.
So he loves his formula that leads up to resolution. But there's one more key nuance to this. And this came up actually, even I got a DM this morning that was so great. And it was someone who's newer to our content. And they were like, hey, I'm getting your making up and moving forward guide. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And then they followed up with saying, I know that one thing I need to work on is being able to kind of let things go once we've talked. And what they were meaning...
Well, if I could be clear... once we've talked or once we've actually repaired?
Well, she is just now getting our repair process, so she's got to implement that.
I'm just saying for those that are listening. Not to interrupt you, but yes, clearly not just talking, because you could talk and not feel repaired because maybe the repair needs a few conversations.
For sure.
So yeah, I think, and I'm just vibing with what you're saying here. So there is this part of when you have the repair conversation. And you're even able to come to the next step solution, that's the resolution. However, yes, to your point, there is an aspect of emotional regulation, allowing the residue of the conflict or the impact to kind of subside. You've had the conversation you've needed, but there still might be something there kind of left for you to, we could say, resolve within yourself. Right?
Yeah, it's the residue word I think is really good, because like residue just so well conveys just this, like you can't like quite shake it off, it's kind of like there's this just like funk that I still feel like we went through the repair steps. Yep, we've taken the responsibility, we've mended the wounds, we have come to a resolution, and why do I still feel a little off, or a little guarded?
Exactly.
And so that's where you need to have the discernment of, did the repair conversation really get done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then if so, now it's my responsibility to do something to shake off the residue. And so that can mean getting some alone time. Sometimes everybody's different energetically and emotionally. Like for me, sometimes I literally just need to go out for a couple hours, be me, turn some music on, run a couple errands. The gym
right?
sometimes, yeah.
I do the bike.
Yeah, so something just to kind of go reconnect to myself, maybe even see a girlfriend. Sometimes just like, getting time with a friend is helpful. Or it could be, going to read or write, something where you can shake it off. And literally imagine yourself being able to shake off the emotional residue, the energetic residue of it. Because there comes a point, and we say this to clients a lot, there comes a point where all the words have been said, because communication is, of course, just like the verbal exchange. And then it starts to become more of an energetic and emotional thing. And that's where you've said it all, you've had the repair conversation, you've used our guide, etc. And now we need to shake it off. And that is your responsibility. And you need to seek the tools for that. It could be talking to a therapist. It could be talking to a friend. It could be going to a dance class. It could be going shooting, like something for you to shake it off.
I guess for me, it was there to say like clay pigeon shooting.
Yes, not...
I just wanted to be clear with people.
I just wasn't mad. We're in Arizona, so a lot of people go out to the desert, That's what I'm referring to.
I just wanted to be clear.
Right. Go play basketball, soccer.
So here's a mistake that you could make. Repair happen, solution happen, so you're in the resolution, but you also cannot force the full feeling of resolution to be the same time that you want it to be.
Yes.
Because each of us individually do have a certain either activities or amount of time needed to let that residue move through.
Yeah. So you mean to say you can't be like, are you happy yet? Why aren't you in a good mood yet?
We're already resolved. Yeah. We repaired it. We have a solution. What's the problem?
Be laughing with me already. Come on.
Get happy again.
Yeah, right. So definitely.
Can't you just move forward? Like you'll start to create additional conflict from something that actually is already not only repaired, solution, it is in resolution.
Yeah.
It's just, can you just give that time? And I think that's, underlying as partners, we want to feel the connection back with our partners.
Yep.
So don't rush that, because you'll just create, you want to like close the gap on the disconnection. Oh, but we've said everything. Right. So we should feel the love, the joy, and the connection. Just let it breathe a little bit.
Exactly.
And for the full resolution now from both people.
And that's where you might need to communicate to your partner what you need. So, don't let them just wonder if you're happy again because you're kind of being maybe a little more quiet, still trying to shake it off. Let them know, hey, I do feel repaired. I do feel resolved about this. I just need to go to the gym, or like, let's say you have kids and you're like, hey, yes, I do feel resolved about it. I think I just need like an hour to myself. So communicate to your partner what you need to shake it off. So with that, we really hope you enjoyed today's episode. We referred to a couple times our making up and moving forward guide. That's just a must. Like if you're going to listen to our podcast, it's something you can refer to, take notes on it. It's something every day we get messages from people saying, we had an argument yesterday, we pulled out the guide. It really helped us bring structure to the conversation. So you can go to thecouplesexperience.com/guide. I know that's a long URL, so thecouplesexperience.com/guide. That will also be linked in the show notes. And you can also message us on Instagram if you need the link. But just go back, listen, type that URL in, and get the guide. It's just a must. So we love you guys. We really hope you take away value from the episode, and we will talk to you on the next one.